How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new Star Wars Battlefront 2 video. And in this video we're going to be doing something just a little bit different to normal. Something that I've actually wanted to do for a while, but I've just kept putting it on hold. We're going to be making this a big video, as we're going to be talking about how Star Wars Battlefront 2 has done the absolute impossible. Redeeming a game that was for many people 100% beyond redemption. Because as we all, or at least 99% of the people who watch this video will know, Battlefront 2 had one of the worst and most controversial video game launches in history, if not the actual worst. So let's go back all the way to 2017, the launch year of Star Wars Battlefront 2, the game that was supposed to be the complete Star Wars Battlefront experience that included all eras of Star Wars and a single player campaign to match. So it basically was going to become the game that Star Wars Battlefront 2015 never was. During the promotion, Star Wars Battlefront 2 looked like a game that simply could not fail. In the build up to the game's release, we were getting news that the game would feature a fully fleshed out campaign told from a perspective of the Empire. And that was going to be a canon story established into Star Wars lore. And on top of that, we were getting to see a bunch of iconic planets and Star Wars characters throughout the entire franchise in the game as well, with the likes of Darth Maul and Yoda headlining a few of the trailers. It was simply just shaping up to be the game that Star Wars fans had wanted since the 2005 release of the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. There was just no way that it could possibly go wrong. Now that takes us to November 9th, 2017, the day it all went wrong. Battlefront 2's early access was available to EA Access and Origin members, but more importantly it was the first look at the loot box controversy that had the gaming world in an absolute EA bashing frenzy. EA had ruined the beloved Battlefront franchise with corporate greed, pay-to-win mechanics. And it didn't go down well, as we all know, as the echoes of this game's release are still felt to this day, over 2 years from when it happened. Governments got involved, the Star Wars name under EA had fallen down the drain, and millions of fans who bought into the game's hype and promise had been betrayed and let down by the game that was supposed to be the ultimate Star Wars game. Not to mention, the extremely highly anticipated campaign fell flat for the most part. The cutscenes were really high quality and interesting, but the story burnt its exciting premise 2 missions into the game, and then it became a generic and repetitive single player campaign. That of course consisted of you hacking down bugs as Luke Skywalker for 5 minutes. It was kind of weird. But almost immediately after the game's release, Battlefront 2 began the repair work after the release of the pre-planned The Last Jedi DLC in December, which included Crate, a new large-scale map, as well as 2 new heroes being Finn and Captain Phasma, with the campaign DLC to go alongside, which gave us an ending to the characters in the campaign, which was in my opinion pretty good, but the first 6 months of Battlefront 2's release was slow and frustrating for the player base that chose to stick around and just cling to hope that the game would one day become the game it was always supposed to be. These were known as the dark times. As a Battlefront content creator on the platform, I personally felt the full weight of this time, and it was not fun in the slightest. The post-launch content Battlefront 2 was supposed to get had been sort of put on hold because DICE had to revamp the entire progression system, due to the fact that it was entirely built around loot boxes, and seeing as they were disabled due to Disney stepping in and basically slapping EA in the face. They also had to do a ton of fixes from the game's launch. It was truly a frustrating time to say the very least, as the Solo: A Star Wars Story expansion was the first major content drop, which included a bunch of hero skins as well as Kessel, a small-scale map pulled straight from the film, but much like Solo: A Star Wars Story, it wasn't exactly what fans wanted. But after a slow-burning few months for Battlefront 2, things started to turn around with the announcement at EA Play. At the time, design director for Battlefront 2, Dennis Brenville, revealed that Geonosis, General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi would be an upcoming free DLC, and then Anakin Skywalker and Count Dooku would soon follow. This was the reveal that Battlefront fans had been waiting for, and after months of getting content that basically nobody wanted, such as Ewok Hunt and the Solo DLC, we finally got that Clone Wars content that most of us bought the game for. The months after this, however, were incredibly slow, and the hype that the initial Clone Wars expansion gave out started to die down due to not much going on within Battlefront 2. But on October 31st, General Grievous came to Battlefront 2, the first hero in nearly a year, and although he released as a bit of a buggy mess, this was easily a turning point for Battlefront 2. And nearly a month later, on the 28th of November 2018, is when Battlefront 2 truly took a big turn. The release of Geonosis and Obi-Wan Kenobi to Battlefront 2 was the first major map since launch, excluding the pre-planned map of Crate in the Last Jedi DLC. and it completely blew people away. Obi-Wan Kenobi was very well brought to life by the Clone Wars voice actor James Arnold Taylor, and Geonosis at times felt like it actually looked better in Battlefront than it did in Attack of the Clones. It was very impressive to say the least. The Geonosis reveal trailer for Battlefront 2 also gathered millions of views on YouTube, and it was at this moment that people started to sway their opinion on Battlefront 2. Within almost a year, DICE truly had Battlefront 2 back on track after what was a grueling and tough year for Battlefront fans. So that brings us to 2019. Easily Battlefront 2's biggest year. The year started off in a great way with the introduction of Count Dooku to the villain roster, and in February the arrival of the highly anticipated Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. Now at this point the game felt like it had truly had a second life. The player base numbers were up in the regions of where they were at launch and now even surpassing. Keep in mind there was a lot more Clone Wars content included into the game, including hero skins and clone skins, and there was a good few months of Clone Wars goodness for Battlefront 2. So 2019 had gotten off to an amazing start. The only real issue being Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, being the most broken, overpowered thing in the entire game. This did go on for quite a while, but he was finally nerfed to a respectable state, and in the months that followed Battlefront 2 kept receiving updates. Although they weren't at the quality or frequency of the previous month, they were still enough to keep players interested. And on March 26, 2019, Capital Supremacy was brought to Battlefront 2.
A ferocious fight between good and evil. In the thick of the Clone Wars, the forces of the Galactic Republic and the Separatists clash in a high-stakes tug-of-war. Led by their vicious superiors, the droid army launches an invasion on the Republic attack cruiser. Elite infiltrators go head-to-head in a deadly battle aboard the capital ship as the Separatists target its weak points. But with valor and dexterity, the clones abolish the threat of devastation. Inspired by their brother's courageous act, a revitalized clone army seizes a second chance to dominate the ground. As a counter-invasion is launched on the Separatist dreadnought, the Clone Wars rages on.
A large-scale game mode that would feature an all-out Clone Wars battle with capital ship takedowns. It was something that Battlefront 2 was sorely lacking and had finally arrived and reshaped the entire game. Along the way, in months that followed, the inclusion of Capital Supremacy, DICE finally brought the highly requested Droideka to Battlefront 2, which was a big deal. It was something that seemingly eluded the game for quite some time with the infamous Crash Speeder debacle. And that finally brings us to the release of a brand new large-scale map called Felucia, which also came along with Clone Commandos on September 25th, 2019. It was at this time that people once again who were still under the impression that Battlefront 2 was a dead game had come to the realization that it had taken on a new life and really started to progress into something pretty exciting. Massive content creators started playing the game again, and the name Battlefront 2 was slowly starting to remove that sour reputation from its launch. Felucia was one of the most visually impressive Star Wars locations we have ever seen in a Star Wars video game, and it was a massive breath of fresh air for Battlefront fans. And the Clone Commandos played like an absolute dream and were just another excellent addition to the constantly expanding Battlefront 2. Now this brings us to the release of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, an excellent Star Wars game that had a really good release and was met with overwhelming positivity from players and critics alike. And the success and positivity surrounding Jedi Fallen Order has led a lot of new players to Battlefront 2. As the impression for the most part since then has been, you know what, maybe EA Star Wars games aren't all that bad. So people have been more inclined to check in with Battlefront 2 to see if it's worth to start playing again. The player base for Battlefront 2 the past few months has certainly been rising, and I've noticed it myself through the game by seeing most of my teammates now with very low level characters and rarities as star cards, some of which including level 0 to 3 heroes and villains and level 10 to 15 troopies. New players are dropping by and asking questions about the game, and it's just truly amazing to see. It goes to show that what a success Star Wars games can have over the entire community. And all of those who are coming by to see how Battlefront 2 has changed, for the most part seem to be massively surprised by the turnaround that the game has had. So that brings us to December 2019. We received updates that Battlefront 2 would be getting 2 updates that month, one of which would include a ton of new reinforcement skins, which all look absolutely fantastic. Also, the Rise of Skywalker expansion was announced, which ran alongside the film that arrived later that month. This included Agent Kloss, as well as 4 new reinforcements, the Sith Trooper, First Order Jet Trooper, the Ovisian Gunner and the Kafek Spy, 3 new hero skins for Kylo and Rey and Finn, and 2 new heroes who were announced to arrive later, obviously being BB-8 and BB-9E. DICE started to get a little bit creative with heroes, which is something that was very interesting to see. And if that wasn't enough for December, the announcement of the Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition has been made public, as it seemed like EA and DICE were really trying to rebrand the game, as I think honestly it is and was warranted given how much the game had changed. Now in this Celebration Edition you can and could get the game as well as every single purchasable cosmetic item released in the game up until the Rise of Skywalker expansion DLC. Battlefront 2 also received further content throughout early 2020, which mostly included of BB-8, BB-9E and sequel trilogy Capital Supremacy. This year looked very bright for Battlefront 2 due to the new increase and flux of players. This now brings us to March 29th of 2020, the end of Battlefront 2. On this day, EA and DICE announced that they had realised their mission for Battlefront 2 and that the vision for the game was now complete. This was totally unexpected, and what everyone was talking about was the inclusion of Scarif to the game. There was also a lot of talk about receiving a Darth Maul skin, a Rey Skywalker skin and a Palpatine skin from the Rise of Skywalker. The Scarif update was delayed by about a month due to the COVID-19 pandemic across the world. During this 1 month period of time, developers, designers and creators at EA and DICE were teasing small pixelated Star Wars images on Twitter. People soon realised that these were images of Darth Maul from Star Wars Rebels and Rey from The Force Awakens. So EA and DICE were dropping very small hints for specific skins dropping in the update. Other than launch, these past months were probably the biggest months ever for Battlefront 2 and somehow were managing to get even better. Soon enough, the community transmission dropped on the 29th of March and everyone sadly was informed that Battlefront 2 would no longer be supported. Although the servers would stay up, this was a very sad and yet exciting day for Star Wars fans all across the galaxy. Battlefront 2 has become one of the best Star Wars gaming experiences that you can possibly have, and it's great to see all of these players who left the game behind due to its terrible launch are and will start to recognise that and the changes that Battlefront 2 has made over the past 2 years, and they're giving the game another chance. And as someone who has been heavily involved with the game since launch, I don't think these people have and will be disappointed. DICE have literally pulled Battlefront 2 out of the grave to a point where this is and has become one of the most talked about games at the moment, which in itself is actually an extremely impressive feat given it's 2 years old. So to anyone who hasn't come back to Battlefront 2 yet, or are thinking of getting the game, or even any Star Wars fans out there, I highly recommend you consider it, because the game has massively evolved and is definitely something you want to be a part of. Because DICE truly have redeemed a once thought to be irredeemable game. Now guys, be sure to let me know in the comments below what you think about the current state of Battlefront 2, and if you are new to the game, let me know if you are going to get your hands on it, and if you did go on to enjoy this video, then be sure to leave a like because it does really help out the channel. And if you are new around here, then absolutely feel free to subscribe to the channel, as I'm heading for 300 subscribers quite quickly. That's going to do it for me today, so I hope to see you all out there on the Battlefront. So until then, thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you, always.